Hi everybody, a message here from Anonymous. Hi Ollie, I found your channel about 3 years ago via a link to one of your videos on an Acon blog. That's Adult Children of Narcissists. I recall you were at 1,680 subscribers back then. Congratulations on your continued growth of your excellent channel. You deserve this success and validation. There are times I am bent over in laughter while watching your videos. The most recent time was one of your newest videos where you confront me, your father. That was epic. I'm 42, I live in New York City, a stay-at-home mom to 2 young daughters. I would like to donate, but I am not very tech savvy to know how to do it. No Facebook, have LinkedIn account only. Don't even know what a hashtag is, seriously. I'm stuck in the 90s, man. Didn't we have great music then? Yeah. I can give you my credit card number via phone if you're okay with that. If you just click on the link, it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. So um, we'll discuss that. My hesitation in joining the social media revolution has to do with the covert stalking of my narcissistic mother, golden child, older sister, and their flying monkeys. I also think Facebook and the like attract more narcissists and sociopaths than normal. Even now, 5 years of no contact, the fear of them finding where I am is always present. When my husband got a job at Cornell University in 2011, my mom called me out of the blue to ask me what the name of the church we went to. When I told her, she suddenly had to get off the phone. After that, albeit brief conversation with my mom that day, the nice, friendly vibe at our new church had morphed into something altogether different, including dirty looks and isolation from its members. I know the depths of depravity these women will go to slander with their slander and two-faced behavior. I am personally witnessed them doing it to others when I was younger and was not so cognizant of personality disorders at the time. For example, my mother told me several times, starting around 10 years of age, and I quote, "If anything ever happens to me, tell the police your father did it," and made it look like an accident. She made me promise not to tell anyone, which I obeyed well into my 30s because one of my character strengths is that I'm a loyal person. One time when my husband and I were living in Maryland, my mom called me crying to tell me that my father had a knife to her throat. Then the call mysteriously dropped. When I called back several times, the line was busy. Then I called my brother, hysterical, who has since been no contact for 11 years, who lives only 3 miles from my parents' house. And he called the police and met them at my parents' house. When they knocked on the door, my parents said they had just gone to sleep. Thankfully, my brother knows me well and knew I wouldn't make stories up. Imagine 35 years of this kind of repeated setup to isolate your immediate and extended family, to make it appear as if the target is the crazy one. It's no wonder when I started to connect the dots at how sick my mother and my sister were and are, and finally went no contact due to years of fog, fear, obligation, Christian guilt. I did not receive one call from a sibling, youngest of 6 kids, one call from an aunt, uncle, cousin, mutual friends. Even now, 5 years out, all I get is the loudest sound of silence you'd ever hear. It's deafening. Boy, do I know that sound. The sound of silence is deafening from the enablers when you go no contact. But that's your realization, man. That's your realization right there. Like, wow, I am so erasable. So what do I care what these people do, think, or say? They are meaningless because I am meaningless to them. So who cares? These malignant narcissists take our strengths such as loyalty, honesty, and innate blind trust and respect for said mother, father, sibling roles to use it against us for our own destruction. It's emotional and physiological exploitation in the max. I recall telling my mother before no contact that I never once had a sincere conversation with her. She didn't say anything back in response. I don't think I've had a sincere conversation with either one of my parents, ever. Ever. Wouldn't know how to do it. They wouldn't know how to do it. This was the cruelest thing my mother and sister did to me. And there were many on the list. In 2004, my husband and I moved back to the town where my parents and siblings lived. Biggest mistake ever. In fact, my life can be summed up pre-2004 and post-2004. That's how traumatized I was. We were away for 4 years, and we lived 4 hours away. Even before I moved there, weirdness started. For example, I took a drive without my husband, but brought our dog to visit my parents about a month before our official move there. Apparently, my half-brother on my father's side, who is much older than me, 19.6 years, but is only 15 years older than my mom, his stepmom to be exact, was trying to track me down all weekend for a major confrontation. On that Sunday, before I went home, sitting at my parents' dining room table, my half-brother randomly shows up at their house that Sunday morning. Apparently, my mother stirred a shitstorm behind my back, and who knows what she was saying to cause my half-brother to be so angry with me. Just to clarify, I don't even know him. He's been married 4 times. I personally witnessed him abuse his first son, who was 3 years younger than me. I can never get that abuse out of my head. He, of course, denies it. He's just someone who is and has always been about himself. Any negative thing I had to say was mostly by my parents' own mouths, or general hands-off attitude circulating in the family for decades with concern to him. Suddenly, I'm the one holding the family projection bag. Even then, I didn't back down and spin like a coward, like the coward narcissist does. I told him to his face my issues with him. Never once did I throw my mother and father under the bus to save my own skin in the confrontation. My parents never stood up for me that day. I was vulnerable without my husband there and felt ambushed. That should have been a red flag not to move there, but we were already in a contract. This is where it gets creepy. We moved on May 15th, 2004. And by the first week in July, my mom began confiding in me, appealing to my protective nature when it comes to her. I remember I had to tell the cops if my mother dies that my father did it and to make it look like an accident. That my half-brother mentioned above was spreading rumors about her around their town, courtesy of his third wife, that she has sexually and emotionally abused him as a child. I was 30 years old and never knew about this. I still don't know what the truth is today. My mom began to tell me through tears all the strange reactions from people in town, from the grocery store, church, neighborhood, etc. She had a whole narrative that it stemmed from a verbal threat she made to sue the nursing home of my grandmother, my mother's mother-in-law, after her rapid decline upon admittance there to my half-brother's mom's stepson's third wife being a plant by the nursing home, since this wife's own stepmother's mother had been in a room nearby my grandmother. This sounds crazy to believe, but she had this narrative that was believable with tears and all. Over the course of several months, always her protector, she would call me and say this weird thing happened and that. She gave me phone numbers of people to call and question them over a said interaction with my mother. Today, I know this was a setup. a false reality crafted for me to appear crazy to everyone in our mutual lives. Yes, I was reacting to the false reality created by my saintly, perpetually victimized mother, when in reality she was a psychopath, luring me into a trap I'm still recovering from, e.g., CPTSD, autoimmune issues from the stress. My mother's best friend, let's call her Millie, was married to a retired police captain with many contacts. These people were later murdered by a family member during my no contact. I found online a quote from someone who knew these people from years ago in another state. I even wrote down this woman's quote, which I still have today, because it was so telling who my mother was associated with. The woman named Michelle wrote that she used to date Millie's best friend's son. This boyfriend's mom, probably a narc too, did not like Michelle. So Millie would call her boyfriend's phone repeatedly when Michelle was around and would pretend she was a rival calling instead of an old lady, and grandmother just used to call just to cause Michelle not to trust her boyfriend and cause a breakup. Michelle wrote they were psychotic, that the whole family was crazy. Great, my mother's best friend Tool is psychotic. Hold that thought, I'll come back. Just like a virus, all that strange shit happening to my mother started happening to me. Instead of my mother being there for me, she bailed and told me I was crazy behind my back and paranoid to my face. I didn't recall doing that to her one bit when she came to me in July 2004. But one clue, no witnesses. When she creates these false realities, there are no witnesses. My sister would only validate whatever my mother said did, so she doesn't count as a witness. I think Millie and her husband were fed lies about me, like I was fed lies about my father and anyone else my mother wanted to isolate me from. These lies must be horrible because the looks on people's faces read murder. Like they just want to kill me if they can get away with that kind of look. Like Michelle, I think my mother manipulated them. I think the retired police captain had called that church in early 2012 to say I was under investigation, etc. That's why my mom called to ask the name of the church I was attending, and Puff had to go after she got the answer. The strangest incident was in November of 2008, when I was walking in an exclusive neighborhood where I live. There was a portion of dark road that linked these two gated communities. It was located on a dead-end street. There is no reason for anyone in that area, unless you live there or are visiting people who do. My mother and husband were the only ones who knew I walked the dog in the evening. Less stimuli. Started getting PTSD, and walking was so nice. About 2 miles from my house to the next development back. When I was on that dark stretch of road with maybe 3 streetlights, a gold Mercedes SUV crossed over the lane and ran me off the road. He had his interior lights on and was making faces at me. As I got to the end of the cul-de-sac, about a mile into my walk, I noticed a tall, thin man walking behind me. He had one of those long, black cop lights in his hand. I was not paranoid. I thought he lived there like me. It wasn't until I almost got at the entrance of my home community that I knew something was not right. He would put his cop light on me, mere feet behind me. I started to run back to my street, first one in the development, with him walking faster to keep up. As I was running home, I passed the same gold Mercedes SUV, the same car that had run me over earlier in my walk. This man ended up parking right next to my house after that incident and followed me on foot. Just then I memorized his license plate number. Yep, I still have it memorized today. And watched him speed off from our street with his headlights off. Ollie, you will never know who this person ended up being. This is where I need your help, and it still bothers my internal peace to this day. Okay, the next day I made a police report with Mrs. Brown. The man came back only one more time, the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. This time my husband got to see this person for himself. Even watched him peel out of our street with his headlights off. I told myself I would follow that car if I ever saw it around town. Fast forward 3 to 4 months, I was driving downtown to work, and that car pulled alongside me. I followed it. He parked his gold Mercedes SUV in front of criminal investigations at the police department. I then call my husband to meet me there as a witness, and we go in to report what happened and how it affected me. And for the love of God, why? We were very successful. We lived in a gated community. We did not do anything illegal in our lives. The female detective heard my story. I pointed to the car out front and gave the license number. She was calm but nice. She comes back 20 minutes later and was so nasty to us. I swear if my husband wasn't there, she would have thrown me to the floor and arrested me on chump charges. That's how irate she was. She would never give me a reason. The only thing she said was that he was, and I quote here, judicial. We had to walk down a long sidewalk to the main sidewalk when we saw him waiting for us in his car. His black cop sunglasses on, his passenger window rolled down, giving us the literal look of death. He peeled out making skidding noises. After that day, the proxy abuse was elevated to E-crazy. I was followed home from work to my house. People would get out of their beat-up cars and droves to our house on a cul-de-sac. We drove an Audi A4 at the time. Leaned back on their cars, spit on our grass, exhibited that look of death on their faces. It was nuts. It only stopped when I got pregnant in September 2009 with our first child. Could that have been my mother putting a temporary stop to the proxy abuse? Going to the police station was the closest I got to an answer. Why would the world suddenly turn on me for no reason? Don't I have any rights? My husband is a CEO today in New York City, a very smart, logical guy. If he was not with me at that police station, I know he never would believe the chilling interaction with the detective and later the judicial stalker. He was frightened that day himself. When my husband got a job at Cornell University 5 years ago, it started there too within 9 months. In some ways, the crazy street theater, dirty looks from complete strangers, whispers behind my back was more frightening there than in the town where it all started in 2004. When I wrote previously that my life could be summed up pre-2004 and post-2004, I was not exaggerating. So I started using Google search engine to describe what I was experiencing, and the gang stalking came up in the search. I don't know if this is a conspiracy or if there's an element to truth. I think gang stalking, which relies heavily on gaslighting, is simply proxy abuse, a campaign sent by the narcissist and/or psychopath and psychologically, emotionally, and eventually physically destroy the target. I live in New York City. Today I live in New York City with 8 million people, where I find most of the people very nice. But I never know if my daughter's school will receive an anonymous call from someone my mother knows, and this nightmare starts here too. I've only had 2 years of peace out of 12 years, as a result of being in a chronic state of fight or flight mode for almost a decade. I am now getting tested for lupus, and other autoimmune issues. For some reason, my mother and sister need to paint me as a monster to everyone. Not, not, not knocking multiple marriages at all. It happens. Sometimes it takes a time to find our soulmates. But my sister has been married twice, cheated on both spouses, a pathological liar, one of the most two-faced people I ever met. I mean, disturbingly so, but when I invited her and her second husband over for dinner once, like someone suffering from Tourette syndrome, she blurted out during the dinner, completely out of context, that I was a monster. In reality, her actions make her so. Her daughter once confided in my husband and I. She was a teenager that she had stopped covering for her mother's affair when a girlfriend saw her mother holding hands with a future second husband when she was married to the clueless first husband. My niece said that when she told her father about my sister's ongoing affair, that she would later receive a call from her mother, my sister, and her father. Her mother, my sister, was calling her own daughter a fucking liar on the phone when her daughter, a minor, was telling the absolute truth to her father, whom she loves. She covered it and covered it. Then she got pissed when her girlfriend saw the inappropriate behavior of her mother. Now who's the fucking monster? She also once grossly flirted with my husband and meddled with a previous relationship I had at 22, helping cause that breakup and estrangement from the first love of my life. Did I mention she's almost 12 years older than me? My sister's discrepancies always get whitewashed as if they never happened. My sister is made a victim to family and friends when she divorces. Nothing ever sticks to them. There is so much more, but this email is long enough. I just wanted to get some of your insight regarding the judicial confrontation and all the weird shit I've been through. Why does my mother and sister disguise their hate for me so much? Why was my brother and I the targets while they leave the other family members alone? Even my half-brother, whom my mother supposedly sexually and emotionally abused when he was a child. I just can't make sense of it all. Sincere regards, Anonymous. P.S. Ollie, one last thing. About a year before going no contact, my mother started giving me this creepy look. Her eyes would get big. She would move her head to the side to purposely make eye contact with me. She had this creepy, gleeful smile plastered on her face. It was like she wanted me to reach a secret. She wanted me to tell a secret but couldn't. Tell me a secret but couldn't. This look and behavior was completely out of context too. Can you provide insight to the interaction? Thanks. Well, the insight to all of it is your mother is just purely evil. She has sexual issues. If what your half-brother is saying is true, she sexually abused him. Your sister's obviously picked up on your mother's sexual promiscuity. These are women, your mother and sister are women who think with their vaginas. Their vaginas run their lives. And let me tell you what I mean by that. When you say a guy thinks with his dick, that basically means he basically wants to have sex with anything. He makes all his decisions based on wanting to have sex with somebody. When I say a woman thinks with her vagina, or this type of woman, the type of woman who thinks with their vagina, and this type of narcissist who thinks with their vagina, this is how they go through life. Whether it be at home or in the job, every other woman in their life is competition. I've said that before, but competition for what? Competition to be the cutest, the hottest, the most sexually desired, the sexually sought after. That is the narcissist thinking with their vagina. It controls them. They size up every woman. This bitch thinks she's cuter than me. This one thinks she's cuter. It's what sustains them. That's all they care about. All your mothers and sisters value. Every decision they make is around their own vagina. Their vagina is telling them everything to do. It is controlling their lives. All this manipulation they're doing, a lot of it is sexually based. It's based on them being sexualized. This judicial guy, I wonder how your mother's yanking his chain, these other people. I wonder, is it a church? Because that's a weird thing, man. To be able to call a church in I'm wondering what type of church this is. To be able to just call a church in New York City with some kind of story, and to get some kind of judicial dude who's going to a police station. And look, we know cops cover for cops. I mean, but that's a crazy story. That's a crazy story. What you got to understand is your mother and your sister's entire value system about themselves is based around their vaginas. Whether they're the most desirable people, they're the most interesting people, that shit, that's where all this vindictive planning comes in. Every woman they see, they sizing up. Every woman they're seeing, they're sizing up. It's a miserable, miserable way to go through life. It's a miserable way to go through life. And it's your mother's just rank jealousy of you that makes her do this. It's her vagina telling her and your sister that you're better than them. And this is why they're trying to drive you crazy. This is why they're trying to make you nuts. You know, you've been no contact now for 5 years. Here's what I would suggest, though. The next time you're getting some kind of funny look from somebody, I would just be like, I would go right up to them. I'm like, nicely. I'm like, and I would ask them, is there an issue? Is there something you heard about me that you need to ask me about? And if the answer is no, it's like, oh, okay, you just looked like there was an issue or there was a problem. So, like, if you think something, just ask me and I'll tell you. And you need to start being open like that, you know. Maybe even start sharing your story, because once again, here we are. Now, I've talked about ignoring the narcissist when they're, when they're bad mouthing you, when they're building with their flying monkey armies back there, once you're no contact, to ignore it. Okay, but I've also said you need to make your story public. You need to let people in your life know why you've had to cut out your parents. And then, see, this church and these people you're still allowing into your life, they're telling you they don't need to be in your life either. If you're getting these funny looks from people and they're getting these issues from people, they don't need to be in your life, because they're idiots who are going to take one side of the story and not come back to you and say, hey, I heard this, I heard that. You know, what's going on here? You know, you seem like a decent person. Nobody's doing that. It's the problem with these church organizations. So maybe you need to find a new church. And also, if you see these people harassing you, record them. I mean, I'm wondering how that thing with the cop, you know, I would have hired a lawyer at that point. I would have hired a lawyer and been like, what the fuck? Why is this guy trying to run me off the road? You know, but if you're removed from that now, you're in New York. I mean, Manhattan's easy enough to blend into. But anybody who's giving you like a look or something in your church or in your group that you think your mother's gotten to, ask them. Do you have like some kind of, seem like you're angry with me for some reason. Like, are you? Like, is there something you need to know? And if they say no, and then okay, fine. If they say yes, like, well, I heard this, I like, wow. And I wouldn't even at that point explain my side of the story. I would be like, stop. So you're here giving me dirty looks, thinking all kinds of things about me based on one side of the story without even asking me. That says a lot about you. Thank you for telling me who you are. Thank you for telling me who you, and you turn it right back on them. Thank you for telling me who you are. You can't hide this shit. You can't. You have to talk about it. And you're still trying to fit in a place that's susceptible to narcissism. If people are going to just out of nowhere listen to this woman from states away, thousands of miles away, and then react to that and start treating you like shit over that, they're doing you a favor. They're doing you a favor. And as far as your other question is why you and your brother were scapegoated, you were better than them. The scapegoat is always better than the narcissist. That's why they abuse us. That's why we're the target. They can't have us be better than them. They won't have it. Your mother sees your husband's you and your husband's success, your family, and it's killing her. It's killing your sister as well. 2 marriages, cheating. Come on, man. Learn not to sweat the little stuff. You know, learn not, and learn to stay out of places that are susceptible to the narcissist. So thank you for your story. I appreciate it. I hope you can figure out the PayPal link. Thank you to everybody watching. If you have a story of your own, audio of a narcissist you like to expose, a topic you like me to cover, or you just like to contribute to the channel, you know what to do with the PayPal link in the description box. I'll have the video right back to you. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching. See you all again soon. Bye.